This is Stories from Elsewhere, a place for strange, unexpected, and revealing tales from here and beyond.
Shakespeare wrote in Hamlet that there are more things in heaven and earth than are dreamt of in your philosophy. This is Hamlet talking to Horatio after Horatio is expressing skepticism about the ghost that Hamlet saw. And the message being that we should keep an open mind because the unknowns of the universe have surprises in store for us. And that's what this story is all about. An otherworldly experience of two friends one night in Wacouta, Minnesota. This is Lights over Wacouta, Minnesota.
Everyone looks forward to the light show in the sky in Wacouta, Minnesota, because there's not much else to do around here but go fishing by day on Lake Pepin and shoot game in the fields. Night is better because there's something to look up at. You park your truck in the field and climb onto the hood and have a few drinks and stare at the stars, seeing how long you can go without blinking. The lights I'm talking about at first look like satellites, pinpoints inching across that huge speckled blackboard of a sky. And of course, there are plenty of satellites and reflecting space junk to confuse them with. But you know they're different because the lights I'm talking about begin to zigzag, loop, dart up and down, disappear and reappear, drift into shapes, a triangle most of the time, but sometimes a rectangle and lots of times a circle. It looks like they're playing or having a conversation as they move together, each knowing what the others are thinking, as a school of minnows or flock of geese do as they move into 100 different formations. Tonight, my friend Billy's with me, and he brought a green laser pointer to see if he could get their attention. I've known him from high school, and I'm happy he shares a shift with me at the Walmart, because it gets so boring there sometimes that your eyes can start bleeding for no reason. And he's got this whip-crack sense of humor, always has. But also, he's got this curiosity that never got fed much in school. It's a curiosity about everything, how things work, and why things are the way they are. He questions everything, from the engine build of his old '86 red Mustang to how the universe formed. To be honest, sometimes it exhausts me, but I love him like a brother. I tell him that I don't think using the laser pointer is a good idea, and he just smirks and says, "Yeah, why?" I say that it may scare them away, and then they'll never come back, and then we won't have anything in the sky to look up at on our nights off. But he's got a different idea about it. He says he thinks they'll get excited that someone's saying hello, doing it in a way they understand, and decide to come closer to check us out. I say, well, might that be a little bit dangerous? For us, I mean? What if they don't want to be bothered? What if they think we're messing with their little dance up there on purpose, to be smartasses? And they come over like that bully Caden Forrester did when someone caught his attention in 6th grade. Billy calls me a couple of names I won't repeat here, and I know he's going to try it anyway, so I just go quiet. After all, it's his laser pointer. What was I going to do? So we wait for like an hour and don't see any movement, almost like they're hiding because they know we're up to something. Billy's getting really antsy and says we should go back to my house and play some Escape from Tarkov, that it's a bust. And I agree right away, because I don't feel great about his little experiment, when all of a sudden he yells out bogeys at 1 o'clock, pointing to the tail of the Big Dipper. Sure enough, there are 2 stars moving slowly together around the last star on the tail, circling it, then joined by a 3rd and a 4th and 5th, until soon all of them are spinning in spiral, a great big pinwheel. "Here goes," Billy says, and aims the pointer at them, pressing the button, and the green beam shoots out and goes far to the right of where they are. I've got butterflies in my stomach doing the same spirals, and thinking to myself, this is a terrible idea. They won't like this at all. Billy gets his bearings with the laser and moves it to the left, into the center of the spiral, and then starts jiggling it back and forth like he's scribbling over them, crossing them out. He does this for like 30 seconds, and nothing changes in their movement. They're still spinning slowly around the tail of the Dipper. I say, "Okay, that's enough. It didn't work. Turn it off." But he says, "I'm going to give it a little longer." Now, instead of the crossouts, he's making the laser go in circles, small circles in the opposite direction to the one they're spinning in. Then they stop. You would mistake those 5 pin dots of light if you hadn't seen them move together as ordinary stars. "I think I got their attention," he says. I say, "Okay, you've proved your point. Let's put the laser down and let them get back to what they were doing." He calls me another couple names I won't repeat and starts making wild circles around them with the laser. They scatter like a bunch of gnats in every direction, and they're gone. "Huh," I say. "I guess they didn't like that." "Well, they've disappeared, gone to some other part of the sky or something, so why don't we get going?" He says, "No, let's wait a bit to see if they come back." And I sigh and shake my head, but decide it's easier to go along with Billy than try to convince him differently. And so we wait. I go to check the time on my phone, but when I take it out of my pocket, it's ice cold and won't turn on. I ask Billy to check his, and it's the same way, like a block of ice. It's so cold, I feel like my fingers would get frostbite if I kept them on it. Steam's coming off the screen, like when you first take an ice cube out of the freezer on a hot day. Billy puts his phone beside mine, and they steam together, and he's pretty amused and says, "Would you look at that?" When we look back up at the sky, we both freeze. Real low, like as low as a helicopter might be. There are 5 balls of light hovering in an arc over us. Not the small star-like dots we saw a few minutes ago, but huge, blue, glowing orbs, shimmering diamond-like and all wavy at the edges. And they're just hovering there, something like 300 feet above us in an arch. "Oh my God," says Billy, smiling all wide with this crazy look of a mad scientist. I don't think I've ever seen that kind of wild delight in him before. My heart, meanwhile, is in my throat. And then I see what he's about to do. He's raising his hand slowly with the laser pointer in it. I can't find much of my voice, but with the shreds of it I could muster, I say, "Billy, don't." He's somewhere else, though, like taken over by something that only comes out of human beings when they find themselves face to face with something that flies against reason. I repeat myself, louder this time. "Billy, no!" He presses the button on the laser pointer, and the beam goes directly up into the middle of the center orb. It changes from blue to this blinding white, so bright we both have to look away. I notice our phone screens have turned on, but instead of our lock screens, they are brilliant white rectangles, like little rectangular suns, imitating the orb he's messed with. The white light is pouring down around us, and it's hot, like burning hot. And I don't want to look up. Neither of us do. Billy is yelling, "This is unbelievable," even though I think his clothes are burning, and there's steam or smoke coming off my flannel shirt too. And I'm thinking that all the orbs in the arc must have turned from blue to white for it to have gotten this bright and this hot. And I'm thinking, we've really gotten them mad now. This is it. We've done it to ourselves. We've really stepped in it, thanks to Billy's meddling, poking them with a sharp stick. No going back, I think to myself. I hope they recognize it was Billy, and not me, shining the laser at them. And maybe they'll spare me because of it. Or maybe they'll punish me because I'm Billy's friend. You know, guilt by association. Like I should have wrestled the laser pointer out of his hand, but because I didn't, I'm as responsible as he is, so I have to suffer the punishment along with him. I've got my eyes closed, and I think I'm curled up in fetal position on the hood when the white light dims. I can tell it's dimmed, like when you turn the lights out in your room with your eyes closed. You know they've gone out. I call out for Billy, but there's no answer. He was right beside me on the hood, and I swipe my hand where I thought he should be, and there's no one there, and I have the feeling I'm not outside anymore. When I open my eyes, I see that I'm laying in an oval room, on a floor that feels like an exercise mat, spongy. It's humid in there, and smells like someone turned a gas stove on, and I see the floor I'm lying on is green, like a carpet of moss or something. I sit up and look around the empty room, and the walls are curved and silver, and they join at a crease at the top. I don't see Billy, and am afraid to call to him. My thought is that he's in the trouble room because he caused all the issues here, and I'm in the room for non-offenders. That's what I hope, at least. I've read a lot about UFOs ever since I was a kid. I was fascinated by them. But at the same time, those books usually freaked me out so bad I couldn't sleep for days. Especially the one about the guy who gets taken from his cabin in upstate New York and only remembers what happened under hypnosis. And so I know from what I've read that usually you don't have much say in what happens next, once they have you. I figure I should call out for Billy, at least once, just to say that I did my best. But I'm sure in my heart of hearts that wherever he is, he won't be able to answer. I wonder if one of them is coming for me, or maybe a lot of them, like they'll surround me with their instruments and I'll be examined in the typical ways. I have a death-like fear of doctors, and that's why I haven't been to see mine in about 5 years. And the thought occurs to me that this is going to be payback for ignoring my checkups and not getting the prostate exams I'm supposed to since my dad died of prostate cancer. I'm not sure that's what they're going to be doing up here, but you know, I've read a lot of things about what happens in these situations, and there's a theme to it. When it comes to any kind of expected pain or discomfort, I turn into a shivering mouse ahead of it. And I say to myself, great, that's what they're going to think of me. I'm one of the few representatives of humankind they've picked, and they're going to get a shivering mouse. I might even cry out. They're going to add that to their journals and say, well, this is what people are, and maybe a good reason to do with them what we will. I'm thinking Billy will fight them with all he's got, and they really won't like that, and his struggling won't do any good anyhow. But look, there's nothing you can do for him, I tell myself. I told him not to shine the laser at them, and he did it anyway. I notice a mist forming toward the back of the room, and my heart leaps into overdrive. A thin figure with big, black, shiny eyes and a slit for a mouth appears out of the mist and comes toward me, but stops within a foot of where I'm sitting. I can't look away from its eyes, and the connection puts me in its mind. It tells me everything's going to be okay, and I ask it where I am and where's Billy, and it says none of that is important. What it wants to know is why we are here. I say, what do you mean, why are we here? You took us. You remember all the white light and turning our phones to ice, right? It asks again, why are you here? I think to myself, I better get this right, whatever the right answer is. I search for the reason in my head. I think of my job at Walmart and how I didn't do too well in my senior year at Red Wing High School. And I'm kind of ashamed I didn't reach the top of my potential, not even the upper half of it. But it was because I was dealing with losing my dad and trying to dig myself out of this deep hole of depression. And all I could get to was this wandering feeling. The feeling that you have no purpose and you're just meant to wander. So I answer, I don't really know why I'm here. I guess that's part of the problem. Are you asking what is it that I should be doing? Or what I would want to do if I wasn't working at Walmart? It doesn't say anything back to me in my head, so I assume I'm on the right track. I guess then, I'd like to be an archaeologist. Travel around the world and find buried stuff from thousands of years ago. That would be really cool. Will you let me go to do that? It asks again, why are you here? There's an extra weight to the question this time around. It occurs to me that it's not that it didn't like my answer, it's just that I didn't understand the question in the way it wanted me to. It's asking me to tell it why we all are here, as humans, on the earth. To tell it the reason for being alive we don't think about too often, beyond a job, an apartment, and friends to spend time with. Oh, I say to it, I see what you mean now. You want us to stop screwing around and causing problems for each other and everything. You want us to think about how we can use our time better and be better to each other, right? It doesn't say anything, but I get this warm feeling in my chest, like it's answering yes in that way. I feel very relaxed and loving. I ask it if Billy's okay. It says my friend is very difficult, and they are having a hard time with him. I tell it that they don't really know him like I do, and sure, he's a little rough around the edges, but deep down he's a really good guy and super curious, and if you could not hurt him, that would be great. It says I shouldn't worry about Billy, and that he'll be fine after they've done their collections. Collections? What are you collecting? I ask. But I don't have to ask, because I already know. You probably don't want to collect from him, I say, thinking of how Billy hasn't been the kindest to his body. And besides some of the things he says, the things that jump out of his mouth, would make anyone feel a bit disappointed with the human race. You'd get a lot of copies of that. You know what I mean? He's a good friend all the same, I say, feeling bad for putting him in a poor light. Then it says it's time for me to go, and everything goes dark. The next thing I remember, I'm laying on a bare spot in the middle of a soybean field on my back, and the sun's coming up, and this scraggly wild turkey is picking at my leg, at a place where my jeans are torn and I'm bleeding. "Get out of here!" I yell. My voice is hoarse, like I've eaten 3 helpings of sand, but it still startles the turkey enough that it abandons my leg and flies off. I immediately think of Billy, and so I call out for him. Nothing. I stand up, a little dizzy, and look back to our truck, and there he is, sprawled face down on the hood, in nothing but his boxer briefs. How thoughtful of them to leave those on, I say to myself. But then it occurs to me that he might be dead. They might have killed him. So I hurry over, even though it hurts to walk like I've been in bed for 3 weeks straight. When I get to him, he's groaning, and I'm relieved. I say, "Billy, you okay?" "It's me, Kyle." He opens his eyes, takes one look at me, and starts crying. I'm feeling real uncomfortable now because I don't know what to say. "Are you hurt?" "No," he says through his tears. "We've been doing it all wrong," he says. "Yeah," I say, knowing exactly what he's talking about. They must have given him the same question, plus the once-over. "It's almost too late, but it isn't," I say. That's the feeling I got, what they wanted me to see. He pushes himself up off the hood and onto his knees. "So how about we start that clean-out business we were talking about, Billy? Going into homes and finding great stuff and selling it for a profit." He says that would be good, but it's not enough. "What do you mean, not enough?" I ask him. He says we have to become vegetarians and dismantle our oil wells and put an end to the industrial military complex, put sand in the gears of it, and live in the woods in a cabin that we build by hand, but only after we pray to the trees and feel them give us their blessing, while we tell everyone, as often as we can, that they need to stop flying in airplanes and stop driving cars and stop wearing shoes or sneakers and stay in contact with the ground with their feet, preferably dirt and grass, at all times, and stop having babies and look into small fires we make at night for the rounded equation. I ask him what the rounded equation is, and he says, how the hell am I supposed to know? And stop having babies? I say. That means after a little while we'd all, be done for. He says, almost angry-like, that we have to do these things or something really, really terrible is going to happen. And it's not too far away, so we've got to start now. And so let's get some signs and stakes and paint the messages on them and start putting them all over Wacouta. Okay, Billy, I say, because I can see he's got his hands balled up into fists and that if I push back, it's going to be a problem. Where are my clothes? He asks. And why do you have your clothes on and I don't? I play dumb and say I have no idea. Maybe they had you in part of the ship where your clothes would have messed with the equipment or something, and they realized they had to get somewhere, another part of the universe, so they had to drop us off in a hurry. So no clothes. Billy nodded, seeming satisfied, but then reached back at his rear, seeming to feel some discomfort. All right, well, let's head home, I say quickly, and get into the driver's seat before he can ask me any more questions. We drive in silence most of the way to our Walmart so we can get Billy some clothes. But as we're pulling into the parking lot, he turns to me real serious and says, Kyle. I say, yeah. He says, this has happened to him before. This has happened to you before? I sit there with my mouth open. 3 or 4 times, he says, since he was a kid. 3 or 4 times? I say. And you never told me? And still brought that stupid laser pointer and made them come after us? They could have treated us like they treated those cattle out in Spokane. What the hell's the matter with you? He apologizes for not telling me, but assures me that they don't see us and cows in the same way. Oh, isn't that a relief? I say. We should go back next week, he says, after we've put up a fair number of those signs around town, and get on the radio to start spreading the message. He's locked into me with his blue-gray eyes. Okay, Billy. I just go along with it. And there's one more thing, he says. Oh, great. He says that when he was up there in the ship, he got to meet some of his extended family from the Pleiades. They were really nice, he says. Way nicer and calmer than his family here. And the best part about it, he tells me, is that none of them drink and cuss. It makes more sense to me now why he wants to go back to the field next week and bring the laser pointer with him and get up onto the hood of the truck again and wait for the pinpoints of light to start their slow drift out of the stillness of a million other stars. But I'm not going with him. I don't tell him that yet, because I'm afraid of what he'd say, and he might even have a way of telling them I'm not cooperating, and then I'd be in big trouble. Somehow, I think they'd know how to find me. I also don't tell Billy that the first thing I'm going to do when I get home is look up archaeology classes at University of Minnesota. I'm not going to tell anyone that. I'm just going to do it. I've never felt more certain about where I was going. My intention has never felt more firm. To spend the remainder of my life looking under the earth in its faraway corners, and not another minute looking into the sky above it.
For more adventures into the unknown, subscribe to Stories from Elsewhere at storiesfromelsewhere.com. Follow, comment, and share to help us grow. See you on the other side.